Are our universities working as they should? We had a rise in tuition fees for universities in England announced yesterday, raising again the whole issue of whether college is the right choice for everyone who goes. It's a question we've been exploring here on PM, given many university graduates seem to end up working in a different area to the subject they've studied, or they struggle to get employment at all, and most students leave university with sizable debt. Which is why we wanted to highlight today one institution looking to reset the university experience. It is the New Model Institute for Technology and Engineering, or NMITE, in Hereford. It's a young university, focuses on engineering and more technical subjects, and it's a place where students study for a bachelor's and master's, both undergrad masters, in 3 years. So that's 3 years of more intense teaching than you'd get at other universities where that might take 4. Well, Jesse Norman is the Conservative MP for Hereford and South Herefordshire and is chair of the New Model Institute for Technology and Engineering, and he explained it to me.
It's different because it's a specialist technology and engineering institution. It only focuses on teaching and learning, and it is specifically focused on relationships with companies and practical challenges, as well as academic and intellectual knowledge and transfer of knowledge.
And for people wanting to picture it, we should say it's quite small.
So we're over 150 now. It's growing fast, and it's small by design. So NMITE will never be bigger than 450 or 500 students. So think of it as more like an Oxbridge College with all of the benefits of small scale that you get, and with a cost base specifically pitched for that. We think that part of the problem with conventional higher education is that it's become far too large, it's expanded too much, and the result of that is you lose the human scale. You see that in the way in which young people learn, but you also see it in their mental health and their struggles they have to connect with other people and to find a really profitable sense of excitement about their university life.
But you're accredited as a university, so people will do the course and they get a degree.
And they get an NMITE degree at the back of it. We've graduated 2 cohorts, one last year and one just now a few weeks ago. And it's thrilling to say that the first cohort is almost entirely employed at fantastic companies like BAE and Balfour Beatty and Mondelez, which is Cadbury's, and a whole bunch of other companies. And the average salary for someone who goes to one of these big companies is £35,000 a year. If you think you're doing a master's in 3 years, not 4, because it's accelerated and intensive, that means it's a completely different cost-benefit analysis, because they're in the market a year earlier at a very high level of income. And of course, they've had to spend much less because they don't have all of the additional costs of a 4-year course. You're studying for, it's something like 44 weeks of the year. Students come in at 9 in the morning, they start work at 10, they finish at 5. There isn't a lot of wandering around campus or spending time on your phone aimlessly. You only work in teams, but you're individually assessed as well as team assessed. And part of the problem, again, with higher education at the moment is it's not intensive enough and it's not team-based. Of course, when you get into the world of work, you spend your life working with other people. You only ever really deliver things in teams, but higher education doesn't help you to prepare for that or to have that experience.
Talk me through, is there a bit of a crisis at the moment in universities? Because it does feel like a lot of people are going and then they're coming out and they're not really finding a job of any relevance to what they've been studying, and in many cases are getting jobs that wouldn't really be considered traditionally graduate jobs.
I think there is a bit of a crisis. I understand the pull of the best kind of intellectual education. That's something that the UK has always excelled in. But I do think there's nothing like enough diversity in the way in which we think about the educational experience. There's been a move over the last 30 years to base things more and more on a kind of Oxbridge model. When the polytechnics got turned into universities in the 1990s, they lost that connection with local business and local industries, and also that connection to kind of local kids doing local jobs. And we want to create that. So we want to create a national institution, but one which is also really focused on regenerating a particular area. And then hopefully when we've proved it, we can go around the country and set these up elsewhere. What we're trying to bring together is the kind of vocational energy and the return on investment and the sense of engagement that you get with an apprenticeship, but with the higher education academic outcomes and fully proved, full-fat master's capabilities that you get from a university degree.
I mean, it's interesting because you say, and a lot of people would agree, that we have a kind of a slightly academic kind of mindset in this country. So when the polys became unis, they wanted to be a bit more like the traditional universities rather than stretching the notion of a university. But the other thing, aren't we a bit snobbish in this country about the technical subjects like engineering? And people will say, oh, what you've created isn't a university, it's a technical college, you know, the thing that sixth formers might go into to learn how to weld, which is not the same as a university.
What is distinctive about what we're doing is that we really are rigorous about expecting you to be able to pass the academic tests that go with having a master's type understanding of a subject rather than, as it were, a collection of practical skills. I think that part of the problem is that with this narrowing of an understanding of a human being and the intellectualization that's occurred in British higher education, we've lost the idea that actually there's this quite close link between being able to do something and getting the initiative and the energy to start learning more about it, and then actually to tie the theory and practice together in ways that you would never anticipate. And of course, the other problem is when you get expansion rather than replication, when your problem is about covering your cost base, then you get universities that are being pushed to increasingly desperate expedients, more and more foreign students, franchising, selling off inner city property, and you get lots of focus on the large cities and not on the wider hinterlands, coastal areas, rural parts of the country, where a lot of this talent is. I mean, in Herefordshire, we only have 25% of kids going into higher education at all. It's 50% in London. Now, you're not telling me that our kids aren't as talented as Londoners. Of course they are. They just have less opportunity, and we're trying to give them that opportunity.
Jesse Norman there, chair of the New Model Institute for Technology and Engineering, NMITE, in Hereford, and also Conservative MP.